Hello, welcome along to the latest edition of Breaker Throws here at the Super Series, where we're going to analyse and delve into some of the quirkier throws, shall we say, here at the Live Lounge in Portsmouth. Laura Turner is alongside us to break down the throws of Andreas Nikolaou, a Cypriot star who we saw here at the ADC Global Championship towards the end of last year, and Jelle Klaasen, the 2006 champion of the world. Two players, before we delve into it, that have got very unconventional throwing styles, but I suppose it shows in this sport that it doesn't matter how you throw as long as it's accurate.
Yeah, quite often it's to do with the release. I think it's if you can time that release right. But yeah, you can look at, I've said it quite often actually, throws are so independent to the individual person. I think as long as you've got something that you can replicate again and again, then that is the key. That's the key to having success, up there on the oche. But yeah, I will say they are some of the more unconventional versions of throwing techniques we see.
Before we have a look at a couple of clips of Andreas, in terms of what the body does and in terms of the movement, is it as unique a throw as you've seen in that particular aspect?
Yeah, it's quite physical. It's almost like a version of contorting your neck and bringing in your shoulder. But for me, when we look at it, I think it's all about full body alignment. That's what he's trying to get in order to kind of keep those darts straight.
Well, let's have a look then at some of the footage of Andreas that we've got here and we've recorded during his appearances here on Pluto TV. Now, this is during a game. He played at the ADC Global Championship, then qualified for the Super Series. So we have a look here, just kind of describe, like, I suppose, the initial starting position, because it actually starts... it actually brings it down from above his head, basically. Yeah,
I mean, from everything, from the approach, it's kind of one full movement. But he's obviously square-footed to the oche, so he's as close as he could possibly be. His hips are straight forward. But what stands out for me is actually the fact that he could take Richie Howson's nickname as the Owl, because he seems to be able to get his head kind of looking at that 90-degree angle, and then brings his arm up to kind of follow through as well. So it's that combination of bringing the shoulder in just to get that straight arm, but then also to kind of tilt the head round as well. It's definitely unique.
It's definitely something that wasn't taught, and I suppose it's something that when he probably first threw a dart, it was just what naturally was set for him. I can imagine he's probably quite an elasticated person, which is probably why the body goes into the types of positions that it does.
Yeah, quite possibly, but you can see from this type of angle as well, just what I'm talking about, when everything just seems perfectly aligned, and like I say, the head position with the arm where it is, it's quite violently to that 90-degree angle. For most players, I think if you actually try and replicate that, and I'm not suggesting anyone does, because you could do yourself some damage, but if you did, then you can see how physically difficult that must be. So as you say, it must be something kind of like some natural flexibility he has there.
And also interesting just having a look at that clip there where you see where the actual hand is. Now, usually you'll see a player when they're on that pullback motion towards their dominant eye, where Andreas, it almost looks like when he brings it back there, it's like he brings it back to his nose more than anything else.
Yeah, and then the actual flight itself, it pulls back down more towards the lips. But again, it's all straight. It's all straight through the middle of his eyes, straight through, and a really kind of direct release as well. And we did see some really good stuff from him. He puts it to good use. It's just unusual because of the body positioning. But that with the shoulder and the neck, I think that's what kind of makes it look almost painful.
And I suppose for players like Andreas as well, I know we speak a lot when we're in commentary or we're doing presenter links about coaching, about people maybe looking and analysing and studying throws, particularly the United Kingdom, Netherlands, United States, the big territories. But I suppose for a player like Andreas from Cyprus, where it's still a developing sport, it's still a growing sport, there's not those, I suppose, those academy structures, not those places in places like that which will look at that. So everything that a player like Andreas does, we had another Cypriot player, Tourist Stylianu player, everything they do, I suppose, is just based on absolute natural instinct.
Yeah, and I will say most players, even when they do get the opportunity to go through academies, I think a lot of it will be a natural start. You have to feel comfortable up on the oche, you have to stand in a position which feels right for you, and you also have to use your body in a way to get the best out of your throw as well. But yeah, understandably, without that kind of the infrastructure that we have over here in the UK and across kind of Europe, it is going to be just very much an instinctual type of throw, and it's just developed in a way that is very, very useful, but also, when you compare it to, say, another 80% of people's throws that we see on a day-to-day basis, it does stand out as being unique.
Well, let's have a look at another clip then of Andreas. And I think the one thing that actually strikes me as well is not just the throwing of the dart, but where the darts are. It stands up to attention. And actually, the grouping is fairly good. And even the week he was playing some of the poor visits, even the 45s and the 41s, they're all fairly close to one another.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? You can actually compare in this particular clip against Robertson as well, where Robertson's kind of throwing from almost the side of his head. It's just that full rotation that Andreas gets, but here it's just with the pinpoint accuracy, and by doing that there is very little body movement. You know, everything is shoulder, arm. There isn't much else that's moving, and you know, it was a valiant attempt in the end. 6 darts into a 9-darter. And
that's one of the things we mentioned as well, isn't it? That everything has to be still when you're physically throwing the dart.
Yeah, I mean, we do see again variations of that. You look at someone like John Henderson. You know, that's probably the most famous kind of person that we know that has that movement. But he's learned to work with that and use it, and it's all about rhythm and catching the right time. And for Andreas, it's very much about that. It's a very solid stance. There isn't anything moving at all, and it's just about having the linear kind of everything is lined up with the dartboard.
Tops. And that would have been some way to rescue what is quite simply put a desperate situation for him. He's had a match start at tops. Nikolaou was the width a while away from having a match start himself. Tommy Morris, to get himself out of jail, looks at double top. 2 10s. It's tense. It is tense for Tommy. And he cannot find
Andreas required.
And his arch nemesis for the week, Andreas Nikolaou, has an opportunity to win his 3rd match against Tommy Morris. If he can find double top, double 10, he moves all the way across and finds a way through.
The match, Andreas Nikolaou.
Tommy Morris cannot believe it. He had opportunities to win this game twice over, but 15 missed darts at a double. And again, we see, I suppose, a similar thing when it comes to his finishing. A finish like 136, that first dart hit so nice, and it just gives him that beautiful guide to follow.
Yeah, and he is able to follow it. But what you see when he's going for the double 8, there is this kind of physical shift of the angle of his body. So everything is still aligned, it's still straight, but it just shifts over to the double 8 section, and then he's got the straight line once again. It is very much all. It's a really kind of interesting way of or stance and technique, because actually, yeah, to get that straightness, if you can follow it through in the way that he does, then honestly, I think there could be some big things to come from him.
In terms of the throw of Andreas, what could the potential drawbacks be?
Yeah, as we've mentioned, obviously, you know, this is a unique in terms of the stance. At least I've obviously mentioned that kind of neck at that 90-degree kind of angle, but it also looks like with his shoulder, it's kind of pushed round and it's almost like popping forward. So we hear it from players quite often, the wear and tear that darts can take on your body, especially in the joints. So I mean, that is something that could, you know, in a few years down the line, be a cause for concern, if absolutely anything. Yeah, it's very much a throw that it wouldn't surprise me if he's almost double jointed because of the way that he can manoeuvre his arm, his shoulder, his neck and everything into place.
Well, I'm sure we'll see Andreas, and he'll be very much amongst the qualifying mix for the ADC Global Championship, which will take place here. It's going to be live on Pluto TV in December. From a player of Andreas' stature still going in the game, let's talk about a player that's reached the absolute pinnacle of the sport in Jelle Klaasen, former world champion. He's appeared in multiple Premier League campaigns, PDC World semi-finalist as well. And you look at Jelle's action and you look at the mechanics of his throw, I suppose at the time it's probably the original unconventional throw that people were talking about when he burst through on the scene about 20 years ago.
Yeah, and again, it's one that I just don't think it's one that must be very natural to him. Obviously, when it's the approach to before the actual release. It kind of comes in round the side. You've actually got the hand out, but then when it comes into position, and then you get the release again, you can get the release just at the right time, and even the way that Jelle actually holds the dart as well, kind of two fingers, it just all looks very difficult to do time and time and again, but it's obviously something that's natural for him.
It's also something as well that we've seen over time that he's been able to adapt, and actually you look at his throw, we're seeing the clip from Justin Hood there, the game he played here, but actually since he's got his tour card back, and obviously we've not got the rights to show those particular darts, but when he got to that Pro Tour final, you saw again another change, another adaptation within his throw. So actually he has been able over the course of time to adjust and try and find different ways of finding what works for him at a particular point in his career.
Yeah, and I think you will see that with certain players. It's quite hard when you watch players on a regular basis. These small nuances and changes that they actually make to their throw, they might not be as exaggerated. But then when you look at even someone, at the pinnacle of their game, like a Michael van Gerwen, his throw's been brought into conversation as well recently, because you look at films from them when they first started out to actually what they're doing now, and you don't notice the small changes as you're watching them over the years. But when you compare years back to what we're seeing now, I think players will always, be it whether they need to for a physical reason or whether it's just they've worked out a way of getting even more out of their game, then you will see some small changes, but in its entirety they normally still resemble very much the original throw.
And in terms of Jelle as well, and we're watching another couple of clips again, irrespective of the stage of the throw he's at, and as you mentioned, there's been some variations over the years, you look at the motion, it's always the same every single dart. Nothing changes, where sometimes we see with players, regardless of the throw, maybe dart 2, dart 3 being a little bit different, but every single clip we're seeing, every single dart is thrown the same way by Jelle.
No, and there's actually a lot of Klaasen's throw that reminds me very much of Aileen de Graaf in terms of the rhythm, the speed, the way that they approach that extra little bounce in the dart as well. So, and you will look up to players perhaps that you see on the TV, especially the Dutch players are very fast as well. It's just lots of things, but for me Jelle is all about rhythm, but the execution, when that arm follows through, it is in the same position pretty much every single time, and to me, to get the dart to where you want it to be, it's all about the release, and the release is perfectly timed.
And we're kind of seeing the slow-mo angle there. Even though the initial starting angle may not look to the perceived eye as conventional, he gets that full snap, and that arm is fully extended when he does release the dart. Yeah,
and that's the important part. That really is the important part. You could wave your arm around your head before you actually let it go, but as long as when you let it go, it's kind of here and it's where you want it to be, then that is the key moment. That's where that's when you're throwing it.
And I suppose it goes back to the point that we're making at the very start. Obviously, we look at a whole host of different throws, particularly when we're watching a tournament like this where you see so many different players playing. And I suppose what it goes to show is there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. And when we talk about certain players and certain actions, certain rhythms, yes, they look good on the eye, but sometimes what works so naturally is the one thing that works so well. Yeah,
even if it doesn't actually look particularly natural or particularly comfortable, if it's right for that player, then that's their throw. It's as unique as a fingerprint. It's very much... If you give anyone a pen or a pencil, the way they pick it up and hold it, and that's the way that they're going to write, you develop that skill, you develop that talent. And I would say as someone's throw is exactly the same. Even when people go through coaching, there will be certain things that you just cannot stop doing as a dart player. And, the throw is very unique.
It's a very unique thing indeed. And in the case of Andreas, Nikolaou and Jelle Klaasen, it has worked a purpose for them. Andreas, a multiple qualifier for televised events here at the Live Lounge. And of course, Jelle Klaasen, a former world champion.
Third leg, it's Chris to throw first. Game
Chris
on.
missing that first double, 3 in his hand. He didn't look comfortable approaching the double, and he didn't look like he was going to hit it after he missed the double 12. The sixes were a mile away, and when you're playing an opponent as experienced as Jelle, he would have watched that and picked up on that. And that's helped Jelle in the last 2 legs, that's without doubt.
100.
I don't mean to speak about the conditions too much, but in your experience of playing
139.
a long format match at Lakeside, does the heat get worse as the game goes on?
140.
I don't think the heat gets worse. I think you learn to deal with it. Because you acclimatise to it. That's what you do. You acclimatise to it, and it's
100.
yeah, it's one of those things. It gets to the point where you stop taking notice of it because the game takes over in your head, and once you can stop
100.
thinking about the heat, you don't feel it as much.
That's why I said earlier, when we started the show on Sporty Stuff TV from 10 o'clock, you have to accept
134.
these conditions. They're not going to change.
Christian require 101.
Over a short format like this, it's very difficult to forget them.
Let's face it, the best way to get
69.
over them
Jelle,
is
you
to win
require
quickly.
70.
And that's what he did in the semis. 88.
54.
That was the chance for 3-0.
Christian
This
require 32.
is Chris's opportunity to get his first leg in the final. And
No
he
score.
can't.
Jelle, you require 16. Game shot
Oh,
on the
that's a
third
kind
leg.
kiss.
Jelle Klaasen.
He's had some really interesting deflections all week with those big flights. But I can guarantee you he has not had a
Fourth
better
leg, it's Jelle
deflection
to throw
all
first.
week long
Game
than
on.
that one. Because now he's got multiple opportunities to serve it out. And you did say on the balcony with Abby
180.
that whoever gets a big lead, they like to front run. That's exactly what Klaasen's doing.
100.
Yeah, I stuck with Chris because I felt that he would win the first leg with the darts, and he had the opportunity and he didn't do that.
36.
But Lampman has a chance to get back in here now with that 180 being backed up with a 36 and
180.
duly punished by Lampman.
Landman has got 5 180s for the night.
96.
Guess what? So has Klaasen.
Another stat that we cannot
60.
divide them with.
Correct. On an even keel. But they have to be split.
137.
eventually.
Christian require
And it might not be long.
161.
Can he save it? He can't.
82. Jelle, you require 52.
To win week 9.
Game,
the Cobra
shots,
strikes.
and the match.
And he
And the
wins
MODUS Super Series.
by 4
Week
legs
9
to 0.
champion.
Not
Jelle
just in the final,
Klaasen.
but in the semis as well. He goes 8 perfect legs to get the title here in week 9.